Yes.
Todd,
Okay.
who are you?
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering
Wondering
at this time.
himself.
Yeah. Who am I? I should know it by this age. I'll stand. I don't have a. I'm so glad that Cornelia could be here and Victoria, music people, because I will definitely talk about music. That's what I do. I didn't have any other specific agenda or presentation. I guess I could have stayed up and made a presentation for this group. But I don't know what you all want to know about what I do. So I'll try to give a little introduction. But I want it to be a conversation more. Kjell knows a little bit already about, he's seen me present several times. Victoria's seen me once, and Evelyn's seen me once. So that maybe you can help get the conversation going after a little introduction. But first of all, I'm feeling a little tired. Anybody else starting to just fade a little bit? We've had songs. We had a great song from Bangladesh. We had a great South American song this morning. Where's that from exactly? Is it?
It's more from the south.
From the south? Okay. Okay. I don't even know what you just said, but okay. But so that was great because we definitely need songs. But I also wondered if dancing would kind of get us, and I'd have to take this off, of course, if that would help, just to wake us up a little and get us moving. Yeah, we're going to learn. My research in my PhD was about this group in Cambodia. I'll talk a little bit more about them, but we could at least see how they dance just a little bit and try it out. I was trying to figure out the exact steps, but I can't. It goes with the music, and it's complicated. We can just do part of this. It's something like this. It's nice and loud, yeah. Yes, you get it bigger even. Oops. So we stand next to each other. I think we have just the right amount of people. Yeah, go ahead. And you grab the hand of the person 2 people away behind the back of the person next to you. So you can push those chairs in. So I would grab Amy's hand behind Kjell's back. I have to become unfettered. And we go. Okay, so this way. And let's do that one more time.
Okay, let's go.
We'll go. Let's just walk. Let's just walk in the rhythm. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's have some music going. Sorry. Keep going. Keep going. 1, 2, 3. At one point we can go backwards. 1, 2. Let's see. Simple step. 2, 3, 4. Okay, here we go.
There we go.
Up 1.
Behind me, I think.
Okay, now I can go backwards there.
Backwards. This way.
That's it.
The other way.
Just a little bit?
Yeah, it is.
Okay, good. That's the idea. And it's fun to dance. And to hear music from Cambodia, from the highlands of Cambodia. Let's see. Just play. This is, I picked a presentation, since I didn't have one specifically for you, I picked one that seemed to be appropriate for this day, and I couldn't believe how appropriate some of it is after hearing Mariana. And I actually was thinking about it as Jan was talking this morning. It seemed to go with his talk. Sustaining social change especially. Let me just say, my wife and I used to be music therapists, and I think in our hearts we still are. We always tried to meet people where they were at. By music therapy, we didn't go in and play like music that we thought would help heal people. We always tried to draw out of people from their life experiences, what music was important to them and how it was being used in their lives. Basically, just a simple definition of music therapy is using all the benefits you can imagine about music that any science has shown us that is a benefit of music, and trying to apply it specifically to people's lives in areas of need. So that's not much different than what we now do. We went into the field of ethnomusicology, which is usually very academic, but my wife and I have been using it in a very applied way for about 19 years, 20 years, maybe 21 years. And working with, the organization I work with is linguistic organization, language development, but people focus just on language because in the West we put things in little boxes and say this is language. But most of the places we work in Asia, people don't do that. It's communication. So they keep coming back to Jan's thing. Communication is so important, and people use all kinds of things for communication. I said songs, but we have chants and poems and proverbs and dancing and tapestries and architecture and so many things that communicate along with language. So we try to help within our linguistic organization to broaden everyone's perspective, to understand that the people we're working with in different areas are not just thinking about language, they're thinking about their whole life. So we try to be very holistic in our approach. We work with literacy, we work with health, we work with community development. But what's the really important part of what we do with this goes back to what Mariana was talking about. We try to draw out of people what they're needing, in what I would call reflective dialogue. So it's not about us, it's not us doing some research on them. In fact, we were never really about the research. That's sort of a new thing I had to learn for my PhD studies. So yeah, that's I entered that world then more. I have a million thoughts usually racing through my head, and I never know which one is going to come out. So that's a little scary, but also I was thinking in Shanghai we had a conference, international conference for traditional music, and I had a thought about that, but it escapes me. Oh well. So that's a little bit about what we do. Let me just try to clarify a little bit more, and stop me at any point with a question so it can be more of a conversation. I say we work with indigenous minorities. I never know what to call. Our language organization, SIL International, works with usually languages that have not been written down yet. And whether to call them minorities or indigenous, what I'm thinking about, what I'm concerned about is groups socially, again, the social change. Socially, things have broken down for them in some way or another. We've worked with some remote groups like Victoria has gone to, but most of the groups we've seen here in Asia, they're somewhere in between modernity and tradition. So the group I researched on was definitely there, but this is very, very common theme. So I just want to bring up, there's a generation of people usually in each of these language groups depending on where they are, where they're located, that could be called in-between people. Dennis Malone did research in Papua New Guinea on literacy, and one of the people he was working with came up with this term in their language. We're the in-between people. And I say in-between generation just to clarify it a little bit. It's a generation, they sort of know something or may not about the older traditions and music and things that have been handed down for hundreds of thousands of years. But they also know a little bit more about modernity. Younger people are going to school, and so they're crucial, very crucial, in keeping these communities from falling into a lot of the social problems that are happening. Gangs, crime, prostitution, people getting trafficked, pornography is one of the ones that the older people and younger people in the villages in Cambodia were really concerned about the effects on young people. It just was such a shock to them. So this in-between generation is really important for revitalizing the culture. And I say revitalizing, we talk about revitalizing language, we talk about revitalizing music. What we're really interested in is revitalizing the community, not having it fall into the state where a lot of the young people become cultural orphans. They don't know the old music, they don't know the modern music or national music, and they have nothing left to create in. They have no music medium to create in, or art medium, or any dance medium to really begin to create and communicate. Oh, I know what the thing was, ICTM. No, it was in Vietnam where I first met Kjell. There was one person and a whole lot of presentations about music, traditional music. Only one person mentioned communication. I don't know if you've never noticed that people don't talk that much about communication. These are oral cultures that we're working with. They don't have a written language, as I said, so things have been passed down orally through the music, through songs. And suddenly they don't have a medium except literacy, which is just getting going maybe, but they don't really have a medium to communicate. But music is known to them as a medium for communication. A lot of research is done in ritual performance, things like that. You hear those words a lot, but you just don't hear people talk about communication. And again, one thing you said this morning, which I lost, participatory use of communication processes. I'm very much into not a product or having some end goal reached, but what are the processes that are happening within the community? Connections between generations, intergenerational connection, values having a chance to be passed down, knowledge having a chance to be passed down. So very much trying to get into what's happening on the ground. Here's a contrast to what Jan shared. From the UNESCO perspective, very large perspective, but I appreciate UNESCO has some of the best statements that I've seen that show understanding from on the ground about some of the needs, especially in terms of what's needed for intangible cultural heritage, things people talk about, cultural preservation. There's a lot of understanding of the nuances that you can't just preserve something as some sort of thing in a museum. You have to keep the processes alive. The only problem, and it sort of relates to the question someone asked this morning, how do you get from the rhetoric to the reality? And Jan admitted it's difficult to do that, but someone needs to be working at different levels. We're working very much on the ground with communities, going out, doing what Mariam was saying, participatory action research. Just one thing about that, though. Let's see, I said that already. Communities with increasing marginalization and other emergent social problems. Yeah, I said that. There's a beautiful picture. I just love that picture. But this. Yeah, a remote control microphone. Remote microphone. Yeah, so there's a lot of mix of technology. One of the best things they do for passing around songs that they themselves have archived is Bluetoothing from one cell phone to another in this very remote part of Cambodia. In that train of thought, the research we've done has always been in a consultant basis. We have contact with outsiders that are working with the community. We're trying to be advocates, helping the outsiders understand the culture better, understand the music better, understanding the arts better, and sometimes working with the people themselves, seeing what are their needs, what are their resources. But they were already doing research. So what we try to do is, they're not participating in our research. It's not, this is participatory action research. We have this research we want to do, and we're going to let you participate. We were participating in research that they wanted to do. And that has just made all the difference in having some very good things happen among this group. Any thoughts or questions? I just did rattle on much more than anyone would in a conversation. But right, so what's that?
Send me.
Oh right. Oh yeah, well, that's true. Some of us. I don't like to go on long. I like to have reflective dialogue. So I feel very conflicted to then give a monologue. Okay.
You said it's remote.
Yeah. Let's see. Can I get back to a map? Thank you. Good question. Oh, it's just coming up somewhere. The Northeast, on the border of Laos and Vietnam. You can see this is a map of the language groups in Cambodia. Not as many indigenous minorities as you would have in Thailand or Burma. It's many more, or Vietnam. So it's not quite as many, and most of them are up in the Northeast. That's not even all. Well, Kachok, Krun, Tampuan, Jarai, Brau, Kavet, and Budong, or Manong. Yeah, so the Tampuan is who I work with up there in the Northeast. There's the Ratanakiri province in the Northeast. You see Laos, Vietnam. You can see where the Tampuan are central, about 10,000 of them. Maybe 30,000. I'm really bad with statistics. Yeah, go ahead.
The first one is, you're obviously working with people, as you said, who it's very core to their culture. Do you find similarities with other groups in the way that you could work to build more solidarity? So, for example, Thailand's got several different indigenous peoples and ethnic groups. Is there a possibility that those groups can work with each other and support each other?
Yes. Yeah, thank you. That was a great question. Well, I don't even get to talk about that usually. That's what I like about conversational, because things I don't ever get to say. A lot of the times we work with groups coming together, and the synergy that happens between them. I mean, we go in, and the thing that we most do that's helpful is we'll share stories about, well, this other group tried this, would that work for you? But if a bunch of groups come together, they start sharing, which is very participatory, very, everyone has a chance to share, and they share stories, and it very much inspires other groups, and they learn from each other. So is that kind of what you were asking?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like I say, I've seen similar things happen in the West with folk musicians, or even rock musicians. Most people start off kind of learning vocabulary of how to play that way.
Mm-hmm.
Lines here on a song, a verse here, a verse there, and then they swap, they really swap. And some of the old masters, if you like, really know hundreds, thousands of songs.
Mm.
I remember hearing about somebody with a sea shanty, and they recorded for 3 days non-stop, singing different sea shanties.
Because they all could pool their knowledge, collective knowledge.
Pool of knowledge with them,
Yeah.
you swap with over the years.
Yeah, that's great.
But I think that's a way of really strengthening the cultures, so
Mhm.
it does become a forward living tradition.
Mhm.
And that's often very difficult when you have a dominant culture, because that culture takes over
Exactly.
songwriting and song formats, but if it's sharing between other people, then it is a case of showing uniqueness and variance.
Yes.
I was also interested if you'd done that, how it worked.
Yeah. Well, it's quite different. It's quite different thinking about like a folk tradition or jazz or some revival. There's some people who have written about music revivals, but it's usually in an industrialized nation, sort of middle class people coming together with a bit of a activism of let's revive this. That's totally different. We don't have to keep two different words, but people talk about revival. Revitalization among indigenous oral communities is different. they needed to survive. That's why my dissertation is called Singing for Survival. It's not just something that some people got together and wanted to kind of like recapture something. It's for the community. Again, it revives the ability to communicate between generations and allows people to connect within the communities in ways that they normally wouldn't. The relationships that are built, the processes that go on there, just in the practice of younger people researching. What happened among this group is they wanted to know, how do we research our music? They hadn't learned it with this one generation, but they knew about research. They had literacy skills. They had technology. They said, how do we research? They said, well, how did I just gave the reflective dialogue would be, well, how did your parents learn it? That was basically the tool I had. I mean, they were looking to me as an expert, as an outside consultant. But I just said, how did your parents learn it? And a whole lot of things opened up from just that question. And the interesting thing is, too, about talking about egalitarian and hierarchical, that a lot of the nations here in Southeast Asia are very hierarchical. Thailand, Cambodia. That's how you run a nation. You manage it by being a hierarchy. I'm not sure how Norway did it, totally egalitarian. But the smaller indigenous groups are very egalitarian. And they've been pushed out by the hierarchies to the edges of society, out to the mountains, out to the hills, out to the borderlands. So what we saw is happening, we're like asking the older people, well, why didn't you teach the younger people the music? And they're like, well, they never asked. And then ask the young people, well, why didn't you ever ask the older people? Well, they never taught us. They never told us. And I'm putting this image together in my mind. They're going to school now. They didn't used to go to school. In the Khmer school system, you never ask questions. Thai school system, the older person tells you what you need to know. It's more authoritarian. And in a lot of these Highland groups, the older people are like, yeah, if they don't want to know, they won't ask. We won't teach them. We're not going to make them do anything. It's just not very authoritarian at all. It's just very casual about that. So we started wondering why. I've always had this question in my mind ever since we started into this field 25 years ago. Why are these music systems dying? What is happening? What are some of the dynamics that are going on? And there's other dynamics, but that's a key dynamic that we've seen, is the young people don't ask because they've learned not to ask. And the older people, they asked because they had to survive. If they wanted to find a mate, they needed to learn how to sing songs so they could court someone. The younger people don't need to do that. So that's just another situational or context that doesn't allow the music to be passed on. So I'm really interested in why has it stopped. But they started reversing this process by using their literacy skills, using their media, asking the parents and the elders, how did you learn this? And I came back like after a year of just asking that simple question and giving a few points I'll tell you in a minute. They came back they made books, they had recordings, they had videotape of ceremonies. Some of them had learned to each play instruments. They had started arts groups. And I take no credit, I just happened to be there at the right time. But again, using reflective dialogue, not trying to push my agenda. What is it you want to do? What are your resources? They started listing all the resources. Well, we have, we can make books, we can make videos, we can record songs on our cell phones. It's like, oh, you have cell phones. This is like 14 years ago. I didn't know they had cell phones. But they came up with the resources. So yeah, there's a lot of things in there I'm trying to cram in really quickly. But so why is the music lost? And then the other thing, well, no, let's stop there. Why has it been lost? Why isn't it being passed on? So what do you think of some new ideas to think about the conflict of egalitarian indigenous societies and more managerial, hierarchical, national cultures? What do you think of that? Have you seen that anywhere? Have you seen evidence of that?
I saw some, not the song singing, but the dancing of Cambodia. They try to preserve and young children learn how to do the dancing from the old one, and they have a school then. school in Phnom Penh
The
that I saw. Yeah.
Yeah, the Khmer traditional
Yeah,
dance, which was
Khmer.
lost in the Pol Pot area, Khmer Rouge area, yes.
And then there was like kind of connection with the Thai as well, because the dress, the costume, and so on, some were very similar to ours.
Yes.
Yeah. I don't know who borrowed who, but they're close, very close.
It's very
With
close.
the music instruments as
Instruments,
well.
right.
And we also have, you know, that our Thai song, we have Cambodian influence, Khmer Sayok, you know.
Yeah, sure, yeah. Well, that's
And the Thai orchestra and so on, we also adopt
Right.
the melody of the Cambodian melody.
and both things came from more India, actually. India influence just has the only words that are in common between Khmer and Thai are these Bali Sanskrit words, which there's many of in their language, and they don't use them exactly the
We
same. But
borrow from Cambodia.
I think they would say Thailand borrowed from them,
Yeah,
and the
yeah.
music too.
I agree.
But it's different. But there's some key differences
Yeah.
in the classical Khmer and classical Thai that are really interesting. But then there's the indigenous groups don't have any of those instruments. They hear Khmer songs. They're very much surrounded by Khmer populations. That policies for 50, 60 years, Khmer governments tried to move lowland Khmer into the highlands to help them to become like them. And there's a lot of policies. I could get into all that. But they've had, even with all that exposure for 60 years, they still would rather use their own music. There's finally a generation that really doesn't want to hear it. They're embarrassed. They've been to school and they hear how the older, the Khmer, lowland Khmer talk about them. They don't want to use their language. They don't want to use their music. In one generation, it is just changing, just like
What
that.
is the role of the media in helping preserving these? The media.
Well, media is the competition.
Yeah.
Is the competition with their live music, but it also is an opportunity for them, again, media, to use various types of electronic media. They started using recorded songs at some of the ceremonies because they can't find live musicians. It's more out of necessity. But then some of the groups I've been working with, they started making recordings, trying to get some of the older songs. The one song we danced to was a whole recording of songs for promoting literacy and health. And one of the creative things, which gets back to the hierarchy, egalitarian thing, is it's encouraging the villages to welcome officials with the ceremony when they come, because that is not something you would do in egalitarian society. You wouldn't. So the song was kind of like saying, if we're going to work together, their backs are against the wall here. Everything's going to change. So they've got to start doing something. And one way is, how do you work within this hierarchical system? Having ceremonies to welcome officials. I mean, that doesn't fit in their thinking at all. But someone actually wrote a song trying to encourage us, and they put it on this album. It's very fascinating. And these are things they came up with. I mean, I didn't have any input into this whatsoever. It's just things they thought these are needed, things we need to communicate to each other. Just like in the Pol Pot era, they survived by the songs that communicated what you should and shouldn't do to not be killed by the Khmer Rouge. So this long history of using music to survive when they're really pushed against the wall. Yeah. No. Sure, go ahead. Yeah.
No, more. We want to know more about the musical, to survive. I'd like to know more about that. Could you tell us more?
Well, now they're using it for health and literacy. And literacy they see as a way to go. Most people, they're not trying to stay in some frozen past. They want everyone to go to school and get good jobs and make money. They're thinking that way. They're not expecting that things are going to stay the same. But using songs to encourage literacy, they have their own written language. This was just in the last 20 years or 15 years. Books they've been writing about their culture in their own language. Hundreds of people have, maybe 700 back in 4 years ago, had learned to read their own language. So that was growing through bilingual education, multilingual education, and non-formal, and within the Ministry of Education has allowed them to use multilingual education, their own language first, learning to read their own language first, and then their minds are able to interpret symbols in their own language before they start learning the Khmer. And it's just so much more helpful. So one of their favorite songs is a song about learning their alphabet. When I had the one guy work with me, just research around, that was everybody's favorite song. So it's like, like A, B, C, D, E, F, G. That's not my favorite song, but then I don't need it to survive. So this was like one of the newer songs and very important to them to learn their alphabet. So again, using it to survive. Pol Pot, if they wore jewelry or anything like that, they could be killed. Well, they had lots of silver and gems and things from their past, but they stopped wearing it so that they wouldn't be killed. And then the Khmer Rouge bought it and saw them as more Khmer than the more civilized, like doctors and lawyers and musicians. They wanted everyone to become farmers. We're like, see, these people in the highlands, they're all farmers. So they kind of let them alone. And then some of these songs helped them to survive within that environment. So yeah, there's continuity there of using songs to communicate. And we'll jump, since we're talking about communication, let me just jump ahead. This is, I don't want to, because we're running late too. If I had one thing to say, it would be, especially for UNESCO to consider, for Jan, and this is common knowledge, but it's just seeing it on the ground through reflective dialogue that's important. But there needs to be community ownership of the process. Again, not imposed from outside, them not participating in our projects. But it helped for me to tell people, unless you take ownership of it, it's not going to happen. And then this intergenerational transmission of music knowledge, art knowledge, language knowledge. There has to be some sort of institution, whether it's the family, a religion, or a school, something that allows for this to happen. So that's a really tricky area. But people have written about this subject. But I haven't seen anybody write, again, on communication, using their music to communicate among themselves. Actively using it. In language, it's assumed that if you're going to revitalize a language, people have to actively use it, right? I mean, it just makes sense. If you're not actively using it, it's just written documents or something, it's dead already. Same with music. If they're not using to communicate somehow, I mean, it might be a hybrid music. In fact, they actually are using a hybrid style. It's more of a Highland style. It's not one of the older ones that someone would come in and say, let's preserve this. They don't even call it their own, but yet it's all the same instruments, using their own language, stuff everyone understands. But they're using it to communicate, and these are choices they have made, not someone coming in and saying, this is your intangible cultural heritage, let's preserve it, don't change it. But they're creating new songs.
So for my own research, I want to know, is it used in any, say, official context, or is it used in anything to natural resource management, so not cutting trees down because it protects the forest?
Lots of songs about the environment.
Okay.
Yeah, how to protect land rights. The community is getting together and what are the land rights for our commune? And we want everyone to know it. So yeah, they make a song about it and dance. And
Share with me, that'd be really good.
yeah, okay, great. Yeah, okay. Yeah. So that time went really fast because I was talking. It went fast for me.
I just told on that year that I have a very good friend. She has gone into Bangladesh to the low, where it's floodings every year, in this area, and she found that all the old instruments, they were disappearing. They hardly had any old instruments any longer, and the old songs were also. They didn't sing them any longer. So she learned herself Bangladesh language, and then she's there very, very often during the year. And she has support from Norwegian government to do this, and she tries to find the old persons that know this music, know the songs, that can still have the old instruments and try to collect them. And then I think they have, she and the group that she has in Norway and down there, they have built up 15 schools where children are learning the old sing songs. And she has made a lot of CD as well with these old songs. And they are children from 5 to 18, I think.
Wow, So they were able to integrate into the school system somehow.
No,
Or the
it's not.
non-formal
There are
school.
music schools.
Music
There
schools.
They come there.
Within their, oh, they
Come
come.
there, but they don't have to pay. And of course, there are parents that don't let their children go there because they have to work. But then she also tried to compensate. She tried to tell the parents how important it is that these children may use their voices, and they have wonderful voices. So now I think they've been in India with the concert, and they're traveling a little around, and I give you the address. Huh?
Yeah, that's
Because
great.
she's
That's wonderful.
doing quite a good
Yeah.
work, I think.
They're starting, my wife especially is working with the multilingual education with the Ministry of Education here in Thailand, and other countries around are very interested in this and how to integrate among the indigenous groups their music and arts into the education programs that are already existing, into the curriculums, how to work them together so that older people who very marginalized, this whole modernization has marginalized the whole hierarchy. They're no longer of value, the older people. Suddenly they have value. They're being asked to come in and teach the young people. The young people are researching, using some of their modern skills. It's different. It's not like it used to be, but they're joining these generations together. And I think that's so crucial to have the process, not just the product of having this happen, but the process. So much has happened in these young people. They're learning values. They're learning how to problem solve in their own cultural way. They're learning much more than music. This is so much more about songs. I never know how to say it. Songs is my focus, but there's so much else that's happening holistically. So I would like to see that happen more in Bangladesh.
This project is called Sono, S-O-N-O. That means listening. So in Bangladesh it's S-O-N-O. Sono. If you want to go.
Yeah, I would like information on that. Yeah.
Is the pronunciation will be short?
And her name is Vera.
Yeah. Vera. Solo.
Sono, S-O-N-O.
Okay.
Her name is Vera.
Yeah. Any other? Yeah, thank you. Thank you for that. There's so much more. Once I get going, I realize how much I have to say.
May I say something?
Yes.
I see that Professor Chayan is
yes.
up there. No, he is somehow up there. And we want to make a little
It's fine.
ceremony for him
It's
to
fine.
thank him.
Mm-hmm.
Could we make this dance for him?
Yeah.
thinking that you want to say something
That's great. Yeah.
Can we do that?
Let's spread out a little. Well, I don't know if we can.
Let him dance with us too.
Yes. Can we do that?
Sure.
Do we get
Sure.
there?
Yeah.
Would you mind to give your presentation? Is it
What?
okay to share your presentation?
Oh, yeah. Let me.
Let us do that after we
Yeah.
have seduced him.
Yeah. I need to make sort of I need to think
Should
a
we
little bit
seduce
through
him
what
now?
I'm sharing.
Yeah.
I want to give one to
Sure.
you, and I want to give one to Cornelia too. So before we go.
I didn't get to see the dance.
Oh, you get to see it.
Yeah.
And I was just
We're not doing it
other
very.
people who I don't think can do the dance.
We're not doing it exactly like they're doing it.
Yeah.
I was trying to watch it before we got started. There's this last minute thought that we need to wake up. So
Like to hear,
I never
like to
did
hear
this
the music
before.
of the song.
Can you send me an email?
Tom Corns.
Yeah, I'll put it on. I'll put it on your stick. Yeah. Or a Dropbox maybe might be better.
No, it's been.
Oops.
Interesting.
And then my wife and a friend and a blind composer doing another dance all together. Yeah.
So he is coming in a minute with Janida, so we could perhaps thank both. And I want to take this just 1 minute and then we can continue. I want to thank everybody who has contributed to the finances. Some people have contributed very generously, Mariana has told me. So thank you first to Mariana for going around and asking everybody, and thank you for everybody contributing. And I think there is a gap of about, I just contributed also a little bit, and I think there's a gap of 10,000, I think, and let us thank our dear Kjell that he offers to cover the gap. So thank you to everybody. I think it's.
So what is the gap?
It's about 10,000.
So you need a little more.
I think we got amazing food and transport and yes, so it's just unbelievable. So now it's a little bit over 5 and the bus is waiting for us at 6. So I would like to have a closing round, which would take more half an hour. So after Professor Chayan, we make him our ceremony. Then, my talk has to fall out. Perhaps I can give some 5 minutes of my talk. Would that be okay? Yeah,
Sure,
perhaps
sure,
7
sure.
minutes.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, is that a plan?
Yes.
Okay, and what do we do now? We continue here, or what should we do now until he comes? Because Chanida comes from another office now.
First a hand for Todd.
Oh,
Yes.
Thank you. Any more comments, thoughts, questions?
Well, I mean, this is also a question of education. And it's a question of teacher education, not leads. So to have the tradition bearers going into teachers' colleges would be very important. I know in for example, down in Patalung or down in Songkhla or the southern provinces, they try to hire the tradition bearers to go into the teachers' colleges and so on. Even if they don't have traditional, they don't have any degrees.
Right.
Of course,
That's
that's a big
That's
problem.
right. Yeah,
So,
yeah.
for
Yeah.
example, the big Manora master, he is a janitor officially, but what he does is to teach the yes, the big tradition. Manora is a big dancing tradition, and so on. It is also a question about the cultural schools and how to finance them. I know I was up in Luang Prabang. There are, I think, about 13 cultural schools for children where they can learn all the arts in Laos. But it has been financed by Japan, and now there's no more financing. So what is happening to Lao culture? I mean, there is so much here that the international community should be aware of. The danger that is that you pointed out to Lao culture. So
Laos especially.
we must we try to present that to our music organization, but we have to renew our efforts. We have to help them in that way.
I feel a call.
Yes.
At ICTM level.
What?
At ICTM level.
What?
ICTM.
ICTM level.
Yes,
Yeah.
definitely.
UNESCO
Of course.
and Ministries of Education and Culture. Is that? Yeah. Just
Yes, dear Ajahn Chayan, is Chanida coming?
She's coming.
She's coming?
Just in way of slight introduction, the dissertation I did on all this, I couldn't find a school that would let me do any of this. But Dr. Chayan welcomed me into his program as my main advisor here at Chiang Mai University.
Yes.
Because we have a little ceremony with you.
It took his own effort to to finish it. Not really.
Well, you were definitely a big part of it.
Wonderful.
Should we do our dance? Oh, we're waiting for.
We're waiting for Chanita, but perhaps one more question or comment?
Actually, I would like to support what you research station because from my experience that I work with the Hill tribe communities in Lambu village, and I also try to make them awareness about the culture preservation.
Mm-hmm.
And in that village, there are only one guy who can play the music, the traditional music, and he don't know how to make a music instrument.
Hmm.
I have
Oh,
to
that's
buy
it.
from the another village
Oh,
for,
okay, good,
for
good,
him,
good.
and maybe and to transfer that knowledge to the new generation.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it also have limitation also because he cannot transfer his knowledge to the new generation for all. Actually, from the Victoria work, I also appreciate for her because that one is can help to preserve the culture,
Mm-hmm.
to make like a documentary.
Mm-hmm.
And also now because of modernizations and also have the impact on the new generation, they have a chance to go to school and learn the music outside from the international,
Right,
and
right.
also can change their way of life, and also they're not like interest anymore about their culture.
Mhm.
Actually, we are seem like a bridge for them to make them awareness from the old generation to transfer the knowledge to the new generation.
Mhm.
Actually, I thought that it's very important for our people
Mhm.
because now in some village, at the local village, the music is gone. They use like a karaoke on the maybe a New Year, traditional New Year, surrounding with the karaoke.
Mhm.
But actually, they don't know the meaning of the music because actually the music is one of the what they call they use seem like a media to
Spirits, the
yes, with the
spirits.
spirit.
Yeah.
And new generation don't know about the meaning.
Yeah, right. That's
Yes,
a problem,
and also
especially
the
for.
talent is the I thought that have a very impact because they learn from their parent also.
Mhm.
Actually, from my the village that I done the research, the during the New Year party, the new generations, small kids, also they come and dance with their parent, and they can learn from that. And however, now the technology also come and change the way of life also.
Mhm, right.
When the because actually I have like a research with Jeff about the indigenous voice,
Mhm.
and when they see like at that village, when I done the research, it's no electricity. During the at night time, they will come and join together
Mhm.
and just like talk and drink tea. This is their traditional way of life.
Mhm.
When the electricity come, they look. Everyone have like a
Television.
television,
Yeah,
and when they
video.
their eye look only in the television. When we went to the village and when we just try to make them participate with us,
Mhm.
some ladies look at the televisions,
Instead.
and also during the New Year, they will have like a one day. They will dance all day all night. They will come together. Some people they are stay at home.
Yeah, you have this
Yes,
division.
because
Yeah.
of the looking at the television.
Yeah, huge impact.
Yes, that is can change their way of life. And
That's-
when there are some children, they have like a hairstyle, like a Korean style. And also, I asked them, could you please sing a song for me? and he sing Korean song. And I said,
yeah. At least he can sing a song.
Yes, a Lahu song for me. And he said, like this. And I said, oh, actually, we should do something to preserve.
Yeah.
Yes, that is. I thought that is very important.
And then with some of my research shows if you can move beyond preservation to these processes where they're actively using it to communicate, because tourism will help people to pass on the knowledge, it will help, the community might take ownership, but if they don't use it to communicate, so if that can be somehow added, teaching people to compose songs or create songs within their music, I think that's a key thing.
To make a few comments, what I've seen in Europe, where it's the same issues where television is what people have, they sing pop songs or try, and then the music has been professionalised. So you're a musician or you're a singer, you're in a band, that's okay, you write songs, you practice, you perform. But if you're not in a band, well, why would you do it? You're not professional anymore. So the music is gradually dying. It used to be people would sing on the terraces at football matches, they would sing in the streets for political reasons, they would have work songs. Gradually it's going. It's all being replaced by the radios on in every shop and every factory, and that's what they listen to, so people don't use their voices anymore. So one of the ways that saying, well, how do we provide opportunities for people to sing, because the instruments aren't around that people can just borrow and pick up and play, someone isn't singing, is that there's been a big development of, in the country areas, folk clubs, and in the cities, acoustic clubs. And they're slightly different from how they were in the 1960s. So in the 1960s in England, those folk clubs were contemporary stuff. And what you find now is the acoustic clubs in the cities, they're a mixture of pop songs and traditional stuff. And in the countryside, it's mostly older people, a few young people, not none, but much less. And they're singing more traditional folk songs. In some places, it's a living tradition where songs are still being written, like the county I came from. That still happens. I still know people that write songs, performing competitions, but folk songs, not pop rock songs, about the issues that affect the community. That's one thing. Another thing in Finland I've seen, this last thing, very short. In Finland is the libraries have had music resources that people can come and use equipment for free. And that's peripatetic, so they take it to the villages that people want to use it. That's another way that might work.
Thank you. Now, wait. Professor Chayan and Janita and Victoria, could you come? Could you come here?
Let's see.
Let me sing this song.
Wait for no. No, you don't have to sing.
Please, don't stand in the. Come here. Come here. We need the picture. Azad, we need the picture.
No.
Sorry.
I got that's okay. I'll have the sound.
No, we need a picture.
Okay, I'll come back to
Please,
that.
can you switch this on again?
I'll do it. I'll do it.
Sorry, we asked him again.
Here, I'll
So, dear all, I want us to honor our dear hosts. I want to start with Janita, because she has been in the background, and now, I had to keep her on her shoulders so that she would not sit there, but should sit there. So I forced her to sit with us, and I want to therefore also honor you as the first. Yes, you have been. And Victoria, without your driving force, without your motivation, without your spirit, without your vision, I got your emails, I know very well how you were behind that. And now we have our dear Professor Chayan, and we have a Beacon of Dignity Award from our World Dignity University Initiative. It's a movement, it's not an organization, it's not an empire, it's a work of love. Our World Dignity University is a work of love. And we would like to give you all our love and recognition for your work on dignity. You are a beacon of dignity in this world, a beacon of dignity. And we, from our big international family, about, from between 1,000 and 6,000 people in our movement, we would like to honor you with this award. Now we want to make a little ceremony with you. Is that okay?
Is it okay to take a photo all together?
Yes, please.
So,
Oh,
can you do that?
yeah, just us now, and perhaps then we make more.
And just can we go all together or take a photo?
Later.
Later. Okay.
So are we ready for the ceremony? Todd has to lead the ceremony. Explain what this is first. So please learn what this is about.
Actually, Dr. Chayan's probably seen this so many
Yeah,
times.
I was in this before.
And
You were?
He's been there. too.
Okay.
So you know, this is a New Year's festival, which we're going to turn to a honoring ceremony here. We can dance. We can dance for you. Let me just. Just walk. Make it real simple. And walk with joy.
Thank you. So would we want to continue with our program now? And please know that we are profoundly grateful and appreciative. Yes.
Inside there.
How about you have to take
You want to have all? Shall we make another group photo somewhere
Yeah,
else?
in here, I like it
But
inside.
can it's
Yeah, we
not-
can stand.
we can